Hey, it's Chris, and welcome. I'm back for my Monday motivation, and I'm just so thankful that everybody was so patient with me last week when I was having a mini crisis. Things were just piling up, and I wasn't ready for my Monday motivation, and I thought if I take that off my plate, my stress level will go down some, and it did. And then on top of it, I had an outpouring of love from all of you. So I really, really appreciate it. Well, today's Monday motivation is all about soft backgrounds and the new stamp of the month from Close to My Heart, which is called Winged Masterpiece, is the perfect stamp set for creating a soft background. It's a beautiful stamp set that's also great for coloring in. But today I just wanted to create something quick and easy for you. And we're going to even experiment with something else. So this card that I created was using Distress Oxide inks, which Close to My Heart carries now. So that's pretty exciting. And on top of it, for a long time, many of the colors were out of stock. But I think now that pretty much everything is back in stock. And then I did use a Melissa Esplin, one of her cursive sentiments. So it's just a really easy and pretty card. And let's go ahead and get started creating that. At the end, we are going to try it with our regular Close to My Heart inks and see what happens. I'm not sure. I'm going to go ahead and experiment with you guys because you know that's what I like to do. So on the Winged Masterpiece, there's both this beautiful dragonfly and the butterfly, but for today's card, we're going to use the butterfly. By the way, there's some great sentiments in here too, so you don't want to miss out on this stamp set. You can buy it at retail for $18.95, but if you place a $50 order, you get it for just $5. And VIPs, if you place a $50 order, you get it for $0. It's free. The only thing is you need to make sure that you do put it in your shopping cart, because I've had one friend that she reached the $50 mark and we both just assumed that it would be automatic and it wasn't. So you do need to make sure that you tuck it into your shopping cart. All right, so I am using the peacock feathers for this butterfly, and I went ahead and inked it up, and it didn't get perfect right there on the body. But I'm not going to worry about that too much because I'll show you something in my original card. I had some boo-boos and it worked out okay in the end. In this original card, I actually lifted up too soon and mist-inked some. So I tried to lay it down over it and I came down and kind of had a double stamp. But because I'm going to spray it with some water at the very end, and that the background softens, you would never even know. So boo-boos that are hidden are okay with me. So I'm just going to keep inking this up, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I am laying my ink on the stamp on its backside, and then I ink down directly onto it. So I'm just going to try and fill in this background as close as I can, and you can see there that I kind of missed it. I'm going to go ahead and try and get a little bit more ink. I didn't put my foam under here, which might be part of the problem. So that just shows you, yeah, you need to really make sure that you have your foam under your images when you're stamping. So I'm going to do that real quick. There's a reason why Close to My Heart puts foam in their stamp sets. Now we know. All right. I'm going to just quickly stick that under there, and I do have a craft mat going here. Go ahead and ink up, and again, I'm just going to come in and try and angle my butterfly different angles. It's not going to be too fancy, not too careful. Flip it around, and one last time, and this time let's get the back side so we don't just have all antennas. There we go. And I might just try and get that little corner in. There, perfect. All right, so there's a little missing spot, but that's okay. And here you can see, I mentioned before, hi Mary, oh my gosh, and hi Lois, and hi Melissa. Thank you for watching. I'm in good spirits. My opening was thank you for everybody being so patient with me last week when I missed out. So now I'm going to go ahead and spritz this with water, and you're going to watch it curl up. So I've misstamped. I had sometimes something missing, and now I'm spraying it with water, and that starts to soften this. I didn't mention that this is actually just plain cardstock. It is not watercolor cardstock. Now I had some leftover ink from my butterfly when I stamped off the edges, and what I want to do is go ahead and tap in just with my fingertip and kind of look where I'm going so that I get each little corner, and I'm kind of cleaning up the ink off of my craft mat, but I'm also giving it a little bit more of a subtle look. So I can come in here. This corner is a little bit dry, so I'm going to spritz it some more. And now I'm going to come in here and get some more ink. And so that ends up really giving me a nice background that will be perfect for just a really bold sentiment. So I'm going to have to put this aside now to dry, and I like to let it dry under a stack of books. Now I did find out I put it with some copy paper in between because otherwise it might pick up the texture. Like I first did it with a napkin and then it ended up picking up the texture, which I didn't like so much. But because I was prepared, I went ahead and prepared a finished sample. And this one I did with the dragonflies and the green ink. What's it called? I think it's something like a cut grass type of ink. Thanks, Mary. And my mat wasn't clean, so wouldn't you know, I picked up some red in there. I'm going to go ahead and cover that up with my sentiment, I think. And I've already pre-cut my sentiment and embossed it. But I wanted to show you where these dies come from. I'm not sure if you've ever noticed this set in the base catalog, and it's called So Happy Together. It's got the sentiments are great. You know, they're good for couples and maybe for scrapbooking, but what I really wanted were these two dies. So you get the stamps and the dies are a really fun shape. So we have this one here, and then I used this here, and again I used Melissa Esplin's font for that. So I wanted to share a quick tip with you that I learned this week watching another close to my heart consultant. And what she did is she used white embossing ink when she inked her sentiments, or not white embossing ink, just a regular white daisy. So often I don't use my white daisy, but it is a pigment ink. So it's great for inking up sentiments that you're going to go ahead and white emboss. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I think for this little one, I'm going to do the hello, and I just wanted to show you really quick. I'm not going to make you listen to me, heat it up and emboss it, but I wanted to show you. So I use my stamp buddy, and I clean that off for the static, and then I go ahead and I use my white daisy ink. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that's centered. And what's nice about when you use white, then you can really see it a little bit better than when you use clear. So I like that aspect of it. And before it dries, I'm going to go ahead and just put white powder on it so that I can go ahead and heat this up later off camera. So this is my little pot of white embossing powder. It's almost where I need to refill it. So I'm kind of digging on the end. I have a little ice cream scooper. Hi, Brenda. Thank you. Wow, I have so many people tuning in today with me. So that is really going to be a beautiful card. So I have digressed, but I really wanted to show you about if you have our white daisy ink and you don't use it as often as you thought you would, go ahead and start using it for when you're embossing on black, because it really comes out nicely. So if you're just joining us, I just stamped this blue background with Distress Oxide inks and then spritzed it, but I do have this green panel ready to go, and I did trim it down by 1/4 of an inch. And unfortunately, I should just throw it out, but I hate to throw things out. So I did pick up a little bit red ink on my mat, and I have since cleaned it, but I'm just going to show you, you don't have to throw things out. We can still make it work. So I'm going to add a little, and I think what I'll do is have this kind of go a little bit off the panel, because I did cut it a little bit shorter. And then I went ahead and, in preparation, I went ahead and black embossed a dragonfly on vellum. And Jan yesterday mentioned that her vellum was sometimes warping when she hot embossed, but I didn't find it was too bad. In fact, this piece was already crinkled, and while it was hot, I sprinkled in some sparkly embossing powder. So I heat embossed it in black, and then while the black was still hot in certain areas, I just took my fingers and sprinkled a little bit of a glitter embossing, and I almost just cut off his antenna, which would have been tragic. So I'm just going to quickly fussy cut this, and I'm not going as close as I normally would. You can see this was just a scrap piece of vellum. I wanted to show you that I even had snowflakes cut in there. Those are from a long time ago. And but because I put the sentiment so low compared to my sample card, I wanted to show you how to just fill in that void. And a black embossed dragonfly does a beautiful job. Or at least I think it will. We'll see. If I don't like it, we'll just save this butterfly for another time. So get this out of the way. Sorry to make you watch me fussy cut. Again, the tip is that you are always moving your paper versus necessarily your scissors. That's one thing that I've been trying to teach the kindergartners to do, but teaching kindergartners how to cut virtually is not very easy. So, well, I'm looking down and missing a lot of your comments, so I just wanted to tell you that I will be back after this video to come back and answer all your comments. I do appreciate it when you do leave comments or emojis, because that lets Facebook know that people are interested in seeing this video. So it'll just pop it up more on their stream. So I did a very quick job cutting this out. I probably would have liked to have come back in a little bit closer. I can't resist going in a little bit more. Even though I tell myself, let it go, I can't. I gotta keep trimming it. All right, so I think that this would look really pretty right here, kind of loose. And I found that liquid glass really is a nice way to put this butterfly down, or dragonfly, and I just put it on its body. I just run a little fine line. I don't know if you can see that. I just ran a little fine line down its body, and then that will let me kind of situate where I want that dragonfly to go. And then I've prepared a card base. This will take some glue to really hold it down well, but you can see that my sentiment comes just right there. I might have to just manually trim it a little bit. But so there is one card. Mary, you're asking if the vellum that I'm using is from Close to My Heart. It is a scrap. I don't think it is from Close to My Heart, just because I've had so much vellum over the years. when I was with Amuse Studio. They had a cardstock vellum that I really liked, which is nice. But this is not the cardstock vellum. It's just probably something cheap that I got from maybe Michael's from before I joined Close to My Heart. So I'm going to just set this aside because my dragonfly now, I should have put the base down so you could have at least seen it finished, but there you go, is a peek. But while you were here, I wanted to try something to see if you don't have the distress oxides. I wanted to see how would these butterflies look using regular Close to My Heart ink. So I thought the butterfly would be really pretty in this pansy. And it may work and it may not work. So we'll see. Cross your fingers. Again, it is just regular White Daisy cardstock. This would be a whole different look if you use watercolor. I think because it's not watercolor, the ink kind of saturates in much more quickly. And so you have a little bit of a softening of the ink, but not like in watercolor. In watercolor, it would have ran more. And here's what I mean here. This butterfly I stamped it, and then I put Distress Oxide ink onto my mat and just dabbed down to pick it up. And again, I had a dirty mat because I picked up yellow. But so this here was the peacock feathers and the red that I have. And then my black butterfly didn't stamp very well, so then I came back over it with black onyx, which is also in our catalog, and it gave kind of a raised feeling, and it was nice for just filling in where I didn't stamp so well. So you can see that I am full of mishaps, but I just keep working with it, and eventually we get a pretty nice looking card. So I'm going to set that aside, and let's see what happens when we try Close to My Heart inks and see if we get the same kind of technique. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up the stamp. And hopefully this is going to be a dark enough color to really show. I do have the mat under there. I wanted to make sure since last time it was a little bit wonky. All right, cross your fingers. I don't want to wait too long because I'm worried that as the ink dries, it won't really run or soften. So I'm going to try and do this quickly. And quickly means that I'll probably miss a spot. But we'll see what we get. And again, these panels I ended up cutting down just 1/4 inch so that I did have a little bit of a white border, which I liked having that white border. In this set, the Wing Masterpiece, it does have little smaller flowers, so you can add those in later. That's what I did for my dragonfly, because like right there I had a little bit of a spot that I needed. All right, let's go ahead and see. Cross your fingers, and so it's curling up like before, and it is, I don't know if it's softening it so as much as I thought it would. Now that the paper is wet, let's see what would happen if I stamp some of these smaller flowers. They may, now that the paper is wet, they might run a little bit right away. So I just put that little flower on the corner here. I'm going to just put it in there. Now it's coming out a little bit darker, but it does look a little bit, it's not as crisp. You know, with the water, it just kind of made it a little bit more blurry. One of the Close to My Heart consultants said it's like you left your paper out in the rain, which it was kind of funny. I'm like, why would you want that look? But in the end, it doesn't look bad at all. So, and that's why I decided to call this card class Softened Background. I'm going to just go ahead and spritz it one more time. And let's see about picking up some ink. I'm not sure if that will work like the Distress did. Put some ink on there. So, and I want to just come in and with my fingers pick up. And so I really got a big spot there. So I was not able to pick this up as gently as I had wanted to. I got a big swath of color. But the good news is you are really going to be putting, you know, your sentiment there. This one that I prepared, this hello, if I put that over that, it will not look too bad. And these things tend to dry a little bit later than what you think. So I'm always surprised that, you know, maybe my ink looked really, really dark and then it dried off a lot better. So this turned out to be actually quite pretty. I'm gonna dry my mat so that I don't get any more. I don't want to get too much. See if I can press some up. And now I'll put that under a book to dry as well. I might spritz this to see if I can lighten that up. But again, so this was the look that I got with the Close to My Heart inks. It did not, well, I guess it does look pretty close to the oxide inks. So again, the key is here I used just white daisy paper versus watercolor paper. If you were to use watercolor paper, you would have a lot more running. Anyway, I hope that this has given you some ideas on how to use just a really pretty floral background. These were the butterflies and the dragonflies. The dragonfly worked out great too. And here are the smaller flower stamps that I mentioned that I used. And I'll be going ahead and, you know what, I think I'll go ahead and tape this down now so that you can at least see this card finished. For once, I'll finish a card while I'm here. So, and Calamity Jane, knocking the camera, dropping a block. Thank you for always being patient with me. I do get a little bit nervous, and I think that's part of it when I'm talking to you. As much as I enjoy being here, this is my happy place, but I do get a little bit nervous that I'm going to be silly. Again, always make sure that your card is, the top fold is in the right direction. You don't want to get your card down and then find out that you have stuck it down not very well. Because this paper is warped a little bit, sometimes glue is a little bit of a better way to, you know, get it to stay down. But I will probably put this under a book to make sure that it dries nice and flat. And I'm going to just trim off that little bit of the sentiment strip. And there you go. So my boo-boo is all covered up with this thank you. And here is my dragonfly. And I like how his wings are a little bit loose. It just gives it a little bit of a nice dimension. So you can just put a sentiment, maybe with some sequins, or an extra vellum dragonfly. And there you go. Well, I'll be back with these two finished cards, and hopefully I'll be able to send them out as happy mail. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for coming to my Monday Motivation. I'm so excited to see some new viewers with us today and some diehards. Melissa is here every week, and I do appreciate it. So, and again, I'll be back, and I'll be answering your comments. So thank you for leaving a comment. If you're watching on the replay, let me know that you stopped by and let me know what you think. And always, if you try this yourself, make sure that you post your card below in the comments, because we love to see your creations as well. And I love to see how I do motivate you. Thanks. Have a super week. Stay well. Bye.